So in the words of one of my all-time most favorite singer-songwriters, Marvin Gaye, what's going on? No, seriously, what's going on out there? What's going on in your homes? How's everybody doing out there? I am hoping that you are doing well. It's been a minute since I've been here. The last time I was here, I was at the other building and was helping you guys move stuff in right afterwards. Because you were like all excited and scrambling to get everything out of there and get it over here. You couldn't wait to get here. So I'm so pleased to see how everything is thriving here. And even in this time where some people are watching online and participating online, the energy is still very, very tangible. So I'm very happy for all of you. So today we're going to talk about how you're feeling. Are you feeling good? Could you be feeling better? Are you feeling the best you've ever felt in your life? Well, the correct answer to that is probably we're vacillating between all three of those at any given point on any given day. I'm going to start out with a Bible verse, and I wasn't really raised in a very religious family, but my mom and I did meander to churches every now and again and explore. But my mom is living with me now, and I took her to the physical therapist the other day, and there was a Bible in the lobby, on the table in the lobby. And so I was the only one there, and so Mom went back to do her session, and I like to do this with books, and especially with the Bible sometimes, just crack it open and see what happens. I do a little prayer before I open and say, okay, show me what I need to see. So, I'm ready, I'm like, oh yay, a Bible, this is great. I can read up on some stuff before I go down to CSL Tampa Bay and maybe find a quote or two to take with me. So I crack open the Bible and it's Psalms. I'm like, okay, we're winning. Psalms is good. There's all sorts of great Psalms out. This was about a vengeful, wrathful God. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm going to talk about. So I persisted and I grabbed a bunch more pages and I turned, and here's what I found. And it was absolutely, which goes to show that persistence sometimes pays off. If you stick with something, if you know it's the right thing to do and you're feeling called, stick with it. So I stuck with it, and I turned and flipped a few chapters forward, a few books forward, and I found 2 Timothy, chapter 2, verses 22 through 25. And this is written by the Apostle Paul to Timothy. He was kind of giving him a pep talk. And Paul says to Timothy, pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart. And the next part is what really sold me. It's so timely. Paul says to Timothy, have nothing to do with foolish, ignorant controversies. You know that they breed quarrels. And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but kind to everyone, able to teach, patiently enduring evil, correcting his opponents with gentleness. I breathed into that. I'm like, yes. How often as humans do we fall into the petty, foolish controversies? Instead of minding our own beeswax and doing our thing and focusing on our energy, it's so easy. Like I said in my song, Doing the Best I Can, there's so much juicy news out there, so many juicy situations out there that you can wrap your tentacles around and just absorb and start expressing and spreading. Well, today we're going to talk about how we can keep our vibration level high, how we can keep that connection. Because if you are connected to spirit or to divine mind or to the universal consciousness, then already you're automatically at a high level of vibration. But it's easy to get knocked off course. So I'm going to talk about 3 separate points today that I've been working with recently, that I've had some pretty laughable aha moments with. Like, okay, I get it, I'm going to share this. All right, Spirit, I understand. The first of which is humility. And for me, humility is all about showing up to life with a sense of humor, realizing that you don't know everything there is to know. And even if you did, starting around the end of January and the beginning of February when the entire world shut down, even if you already knew everything, we're all on an even playing field right now. Now's the time where everyone is showing up with humility and with humbleness to each other and to ourselves. So for me, humility seems like showing up with a childlike mind. Jesus said, show up with the mind of a child to get closer to Spirit, to get closer to God. Have the mind of a child. And for me, a childlike, I'm so glad that there is a young person here today in our sanctuary, because to me, the mind of a child means you wake up every morning exuberant, ready to express with smiling eyes. You know that you don't know everything already, and so that's not a hurdle that you have to jump over. You're just excited to learn. You want to learn. You thrive on learning. That's what helps you grow and evolve. And so for me, showing up with humility means showing up ready to learn, ready to be compassionate, ready to understand all points of view. It's become very polarized here in the last decade or so. Humanity has. And so for me, humility is about, yes, I believe what I believe. I know what I know. But I also want to hear what you believe, and I want to know what you know. Facebook is a very popular place to do that, because you see all sorts of opinions and all sorts of beliefs. And I have lots and lots of friends, especially on Facebook. One of my high school friends made a Facebook post on Friday, and it was about how wearing a mask is a hoax. And I'm not going to get all political, but for me personally, I have a 78-year-old mom that's living with me now, and so we're putting the mask on when we go into the grocery store. I need her to walk around and get some exercise and get some social interaction. So I have her with me when we're outing and abouting, but we have our masks on. So when I saw this post about wearing a mask is a hoax, I don't know what happened with me. I'm usually a very calm and collected person, but it just pushed a button in me. It triggered something in me, and I went off. And I reacted. I didn't respond, I reacted, and used a couple of choice words. And then I stepped away from it for a minute, like it was like, oh! I went crazy there for just a split second. And I typed what I typed, and then I sat back and I'm like, no, you're gonna have to delete that. That was not cool. And you're being part of the problem, you're not being part of the solution. But very quickly I realized, no, that's not the way to address this. You're not going to change anybody's mind to wear a mask with the response that you just gave. So I went back and I deleted it, but already a couple of people had seen it. Just in the 60 seconds it took me to get back there, already people were like, golly, Jennifer, I hope you were kidding. I hope you weren't serious with that post. And so I deleted it. And I immediately took it over to my page as a teaching moment. And I explained what I had done and how it had hit me and how it had triggered me. And I'm a motivational speaker. This is what I do for a living. I'm a positive motivational musician and speaker. And yet it didn't take much to push my trigger and push my button and send me right over. And I think all of us are kind of like that. All of us are feeling a little fragile and raw right now. But talk about humility. I came back at it after I had done it. I caught myself immediately, and I put the post out there. This is what I've done, people. Please be careful out there. Understand everyone's opinion, respect everyone from where they're coming from, and just be cool about it. Do you. You do you. Well, Reverend Andy Conyer over in Sebring at Sebring Unity, he put a one-word answer on my post, and he said, ego. I'm like, no, you are absolutely right, Reverend Andy. I absolutely fell into my ego. My ego just came crashing forward. I've been so good. My mom's been with me, and it's been a test of patience and a test of humility, serving her and being with her. But it's a lot. It's like I was saying to the folks earlier, it's a lot. But I think of all of the people where humility was their number one sentiment for the world. Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Jesus. All these master teachers were humble people. And they lived to be of service to others. They lived to raise the vibration of humanity. And to me, that's what humility really means. And so I am really trying to show up more humble now, especially after that incident. And sometimes it takes a little bit of falling off the wagon there, a little bit of stumble. to jolt you back up and go, oh. And the good thing is, for those of us that have been practicing spirituality and studying spirituality for a long time, eventually it takes less and less time for us to realize it. Because there are those people that stumble and fall and never realize what they have done and the damage that they have done. And so it's important as spiritual practitioners for us to be conscious, literally. Scott Simon, who is the morning host for NPR's Morning Edition, was interviewing somebody on the way down yesterday. I was driving down, and he was interviewing a musician, and they were talking about when they had kids and how hard it was to talk with our kids. And Scott said, yeah, if only the kids could have known us when we were their age, then they'd see what the real story is, and a lot of things would be resolved. But he also said something that caught me. He said, you know, my mom always told me, you make enough mistakes, and eventually you learn how to forgive and understand other people's mistakes. And that is really a truth with a capital T that caught me. So the next thing I want to talk about is connection to spirit, connection to source. As we were talking about in the meditation prayer, the connection is the vital, most important thing for all of us, being connected, realizing that we're connected. And the co-founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, says in his book, Talks on Truth, believing himself separate from his source, man loses sight of the divine harmony. He is like a musical note standing alone, looking up on the other notes, but having no definite place upon the great staff of nature, the grand symphony of life. I'm like, that really struck me too. And I think many of us right now at this point in time are kind of feeling and wondering what our place on that great staff of life is right now. A lot of things are dissolving right before our very eyes. Businesses, a lot of churches may not make it back out of this. A lot of small businesses, a lot of people who have gone to college and studied for certain skills, their careers may not be coming back. My daughter, we are still paying off student loans to Syracuse University for a performing arts degree. And we are both professional musicians as well, my husband and I. And so it's just, right now, rather than looking at it from a defeatist point of view, we're looking at it as, okay, how can we regroup? How can we put something else back together? If this door is closing, that means there are other doors out there that are about to open for us. And that's how we're choosing to view it. My daughter was going to do hair the other night, and she's been doing, she's a performing artist, and she's been in lots of shows and done the cruise ship thing, has made a great living since she graduated, but all of that came to a screeching halt, right? And yet, even at that, she has found other ways to make income, and one of them is doing hair. And she said, well, I'm off to do another wedding. I'm off to do a hair. It's going to be a very small wedding, and I'm just doing 3 people, so they'll be coming in one at a time, so it'll be safe. She said, but Mom, I just kind of feel like a fraud. I'm not really a trained hairstylist. I'm not, I feel a little bit nervous about going. I don't feel like it's really my thing. Like, I feel like I'm a faker. And I said, honey, guess what? That's called being an adult. That's called, if you have to do something different, you work at it, and you work at it, and you work at it, and eventually you're going to show up at a gig, and that thought will not even cross your mind. All of a sudden you'll own it. Like, oh, this is my new thing. This is my new way to create and to make income. Well, feelings of feeling less than and not good enough aren't just for the young generation. All of us have those feelings every now and again. I feel like that with my mom every day. If I lose my temper, if I become impatient, I beat up on myself some. But then it's like, you know what? She's always there smiling. All I gotta do is go out there and give her a hug and say, man, I lost it there. I'm sorry. I was being punky, but I love you, and I'm glad you're here. And that's what we do. If we misstep, if we fumble, we catch it, and we just keep on going, even if we have momentary lapses of feeling less than. Well, I don't know if any of you have heard of the group, the Rolling Stones. Eddie and I have been doing a lot of Hulu, a lot of Netflix, a lot of TV, and we watched this really great documentary on Bill Wyman called The Quiet One. And he was the bass player for the Rolling Stones. Well, Ray Charles was Bill Wyman's most favorite musician in the entire world. And he decided to go and finally see Ray Charles after all these years of just being infatuated with his music and just loving his style and his technique. He went to a Ray Charles show finally. And he was in the audience, and Ray Charles cleared the musicians off the stage and just sat at the piano by himself and played Georgia on My Mind. Bill Wyman was telling the story in the documentary. He said, it was a pretty small venue, and there were only 4,000 people in the audience. He said, but when Ray Charles got done with that song, everybody looked around at each other like, did y'all just hear that? I mean, it was the most incredible, magical moment that I had ever felt. And then after the show, all my friends were wanting to say, well, let's go backstage and meet him. And Bill was like, oh, I don't want to do that. I know what it's like when you're just done with a show. You don't want people all over you. You want a little time to relax and chill out. Well, before he could even defer to his friends and say, I'm not going to do it, a security guard came up and said, Mr. Charles knows that you're in the audience. Would you please come back? He'd like to meet you. Bill Wyman was like, oh, like I'm not worthy. So he goes backstage, and he and Ray Charles start talking and getting to know each other. Ray Charles said, Bill, I've been a big fan of you all this time. I would love for you to play on my next album project. Now, mind you, at this point, Bill Wyman was decades into the success of the Rolling Stones. He had already put out a couple of solo projects that had been very well received. He's an artist. His art had been very well received. And he'd already played with some mythical godfathers of blues. He'd already played with Buddy Guy and Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters. He'd already played with all these high-profile heroes of his. But when Ray Charles, his absolute most iconic favorite musician, asked him to play, he said, oh no, Ray, I could never play on your project. I am not nearly good enough. And I was watching it, and I was thinking about this talk, and I'm like, whoa. Even someone of that caliber, we all have feelings of not being good enough. And to me, it made me immediately sad, because when we have feelings of not being good enough, it blocks us from going through doors that might be opening for us. It blocks us from taking chances and from discovering new opportunities and new ways to shine. So being connected to Source, once we're connected in, all of a sudden, all those feelings of lack and of not being good enough go out the window. Abraham Hicks has a really great phrase that I picked up last week at Reverend Robin Volker's church, Unity of Gainesville, Georgia. She brought this to my attention. Abraham Hicks says, one person connected to Source is more powerful than 1 million people not connected to Source. So there's two ways to process info when it comes into you. Either you're processing it as truth, or you're processing it as untruth. So the crux of the biscuit for us as humans, so that we can feel good all the time and feel like we're showing up fully at a fully high vibrational level, take the emotion out of it. Either you encounter someone or something or some piece of writing or some news story or a situation, you either see it as truth or untruth. If it is untruth, if it doesn't ring true for you, simply walk on by. What was that, Dionne Warwick? Walk on by. Just walk on by. I think a lot of times as humans, we get caught up in our emotions and the drama of our emotions. And so if we can simply look at life through a less emotional eye and just say, that really did not ring true for me in that Facebook post. Well, then I could have just scrolled on past, right? I could have just done, that's not for me. That's not one of those foolish controversies that I want to get trapped in. Walk on by. The last point I want to make about showing up, feeling good, feeling better, feeling the best that you can, is about keeping it simple. Right now, that's the word, Bird. Keeping things simple. Everyone has been, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have lost footing. A lot of people have lost work, lost jobs. A lot of people are feeling disconnected from family and from community. A lot of energy we feel has been taken from us trying to process all of this. A lot of our energy has been used spinning around trying to process, trying to regroup. We've been in fight or flight mode recently. And I don't know about you guys, but before COVID hit, I was of that generation, and I think many of us are of this generation, where we were just multitasking all the time, going 90 miles an hour in 50 different directions. And then all of a sudden, the brakes were put on the entire world. Where else in history has the world just stopped like it has right now? And so for me, that's an absolute invitation to start anew. And this time, when we get back out there and when we build ourselves up and reinvent ourselves, we have an opportunity to keep things simple. We have an opportunity now to, like Randy was saying about the books and clearing out your clutter, now is the time for humanity to clear out the clutter. Clearing out the erroneous tasks and things that we couldn't say no to. Now's the time for us to really focus and hone in, and as we evolve out of this current situation, keep things simple. Make life easier for yourself. It doesn't take very much for humans to survive and to thrive and to be happy. So simplicity, for me, is really something that I've been working with. Mary Shelley, in her book Frankenstein, says this: "Nothing is so painful to the human mind as a great and sudden change." And that is a truth. The ego freaks itself out sometimes when we are faced with sudden change. But lucky for us, we have that ability to bypass our ego and allow spirit to come in. PBS NewsHour did a piece on students and how they are learning online. And there were some high school students from Maine, and one of the students said, our engineering teacher tells us that sometimes our brains get wrapped around what we want to do instead of what would happen if we explored new possibilities. And for us to show up as our absolute best right now, I want to invite and encourage all of you that are watching online, all of you that are here, to step forward with newness, to step forward expecting that doors are going to open for you. We are divine children of the highest power. We are connected to that source. We are an aspect of that source. Live in your connection, know your connection, and move forward with high expectations to be the best you can be.